Uh-oh, kank. You know what that sound is. It's the phrase that pays. Man, hold on. Let me get this banner out of here. I can't even see Mike.
Help!
Help, they've got me. Guys, we're back again. If you see 3 smiling angelic countenances of your favorite expert cartoonists, a couple of things are happening. Oh, somebody's got to change their smoke alarm.
Oh, it's my space water.
1, it must be Wednesday, 8 p.m. EST, and it must be pencil to pencil time, you guys. It's pitch me. I must be dreaming time again. Yes. Guys, let's do some intros. I am but your humble first host. I am on the board of the National Cartoonist Society and also the chapter chair of Philadelphia. That's a big job. Not only all of those things are very cool, but I also get to be a graphic novelist. I have a series at Scholastic underneath the graphics imprint. Leon, Worst Friends Forever is the newest volume of my series. Tell him, Steve Conley.
Cobbett, why don't you?
Yes. Yes. I would be remiss. I would be in remission if I did not introduce my co-host, cohort, and co-conspirator. Guys, he's back in title contention. I told y'all. I told Tuck Your Chain. He's coming for your belt. He is the soon-to-be again world heavyweight champion of webcomics. By God, it's Stone Cold Steve Conley.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
It's so good to see you. But I would be remiss. I want to switch things up. If I got to fix that whole graphic thing at the bottom. I think we gotta shorten it. Anyway, I'm gonna such a nerd today on doing technical stuff all day. But my name is Steve Conley. I write and draw the webcomic The Middle Age, which you can read at middleagecomic.com. Episode 325 was just posted yesterday. Wow. It contains the line Indiscriminate Al's the carving station of Indiscriminate Al's Tainted Meat Buffet. So if you're looking for a comic that has that line in it, that is available at Webtoons, Tapas, Go Comics, and my own website, middleagecomic.com. I also make TTRPG stuff. You play the Dungeons and the Dragons.
And the Dragons, yes.
You get the Nimblemancy, etc., and so forth.
Hey, Steve, do you have your little barrels of dice over there? I want to see those. So hold those up. Are you kidding me? That's so cool.
And they're 3D printed here. Ooh, I'd like load that one together. I'll break my hand. But they're in pieces, so you got metal bits and wood bits, and it's actually wood filament. It's got little bits of wood in the plastic.
That's what she said. Pause.
But I would be remiss. Yeah. Oh, we're back with our little chat in the corner. I love that.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Tower of Power, the Manny Hour, Too Sweet to Be Sour, the Golden Doodler, the man who,
children,
the marvel of mark making, the maestro, Mr. Mike Manley.
Heyo.
Heyo. Hello, everyone. I am your mark maker, the mark maker of your childhoods. Welcome to the show of all shows.
The show shows.
The show of shows that grows every week with a amazing influx of other professional cartoonists.
Yeah.
In the chat room.
Yeah.
Right? So you get to rub shoulders with a lot of professionals, which you don't get on just about any other podcast.
That's right. Yeah, like how many other live podcasts can you go on and have, like award-winning cartoonists, like even sniff your air, even speak to you,
see your scroll.
That doesn't happen at BarCon. Right.
BarCon, nobody hears anybody. You just think. You just nod your head and agree. Yeah, yes. You nod your head in agreement.
You know what? Speaking of that, Mike, as we do our witty banner portion of this, I have been, because I am a true lover of the 1980s. That's even in my bio. He enjoys the 1980s.
What are you talking about? You were born in the 80s.
No, it was not. I'm a 70s baby.
You came of age in the 80s.
Yeah, that's what they would call me an 80s baby, because all the good stuff happened in the 80s besides 70s television. My social media feed is very inundated with, you might be a Gen Xer if you remember this. And it's just these images of stuff. And it's kind of hard to catch me off guard, but I saw balsa gliders. Remember those?
Oh, with the big rubber band in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That showed up, and then somebody talked about drinking Kool-Aid out of that pitcher that had the plunger on the top, the Tupperware with just the plug thing at the top, and all these things. And what the guy said is the coolest part about being a Gen Xer, and even though Mike's a little out of that frame, you're a little before that.
I'm a baby boomer.
Yeah, you're a boomer. Okay, boomer.
And I'm at the end of the baby boom.
You're a boom Xer. I think that's what you might be. Is that we yearn for a simple time before we were so distracted by devices.
We yearned for the time where you could ride a bike with no helmet.
That's right.
In your knees, you use methylate. That shit that burned you. Who knows if it healed you? Just burned like hell. What was it? Doctor such and such and cough medicine that tastes like a mixture of whiskey, honey, and lemon juice.
Oh, that's
right.
Laudanum and fiberglass.
Right. Yeah. Captain Crunch, Pop-Tarts, Tang. There was no such thing as too much sugar in your diet.
And we turned out all right.
Yeah, we're fine. Speaking of Tang, Mike, Bear Edwards says, we put the Ranger free. That's not what I wanted. Right. He said, welcome back from space camp, Mike. Speaking of Tang.
I'm always in space camp.
We love that fit. So another cool thing about being older is, guys, you know what? After a while, we amass things, not in items, but in
wealth. Generational wealth.
We're cartoonists, not wealth, but in experience and knowledge, right? And I think sometimes that's lost when you meet a young person and they go, "Oh, okay, you do a thing," and they don't understand the iceberg of how you got here. They just see you, maybe Steve, sitting at his table, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool. You made this." Not that you've been doing this for almost 30 years.
Not that he's more machine than man now.
Right. So I think, that's something that maybe gets lost on younger generations, of just the scar tissue to get to this point. Like, I put this thing on my Facebook this afternoon. It was an old picture from 2014. And I had all my, badges from conventions on it. And I just took a picture of that. That was an apartment ago. And I just said, part of the journey is getting out of your chair and doing stuff to get to the other part. And people were like, whoa. But
getting out of your chair to go sit in another chair, to come back home with a tag to sit in your chair.
Well, when you make it sound like that,
and you get in a chair that flies you to that other chair.
But there's something about all those shows, though, how they kind of all blur together at some point, how they all they're just an event in the past. But at the moment, and the moments leading up to them, and every moment of those conventions, meeting new people, and and selling your wares and explaining your project, whatever you're working on, all those moments, they're just so. It's such a rich experience that it kind of becomes a blur after the fact, because there's just so much, and it's so intense over just a few days. But each one of those badges, I saw that photograph on it. Each one of those badges was just like, days of prep before you had to go to those conventions.
Mirror universe Jamar that you must meet and fight.
Fight the Gorn.
Right. Each one of those represented 4 days. That's a year in that box, right?
How much bad food did each one of those bad con hot dog?
This isn't going where I thought.
I'm still on the romantic side of this equation. I'm going to let Mike bring us back down to earth.
How many people stared at you like some kind of freak behind your table?
What I was getting at is that now we live in this world where so much of what people think of as networking is done on your phone or on a computer. There's something to be said about, even when you're at a young point in your career, that you might have to get in a car and drive to another state. You might have to get on a plane.
The weird thing, I think, for this generation is, and I've talked to several, just at the con you and I were at, this generation is probably the most uncomfortable generation of talking to people in person, other adults in person. Right. And one of the things that comes up very often when I talk to a young person is they will express, I get nervous talking to people.
A lot of anxiety.
Right. They're not used to talking on the phone. They're not even used to texting. I mean, they're used to texting, not email. Right. Mm-hmm. So our generation had to go through all the journey from telephone, which everybody used, to the fax.
Facsimile was
right. And I remember when I got my fax. I remember before I bought this house, and I was living in West Philly, I got a fax when I was working on, I think it was when I was working on Darkhawk or right before Darkhawk. Mm-hmm. And they would fax your scripts. And then you would do a cover layout and you would fax it to the office, right? And you really got used to that. Then there was the internet. So I think it's sort of like you didn't have any choice but to get used to it, because that is what the business dictated. This is actually what I said to my mentee the other day, is the one thing that's real that has always been consistent throughout the generations is you don't get to dictate to the people you work with how they want the artwork delivered. Right? You don't get to dictate to Walt Disney how they want their stuff, right? And so the older you are, the more you had to actually adapt, even if you didn't want to. If there's we don't use FedEx anymore, right? You want to work on this book, these pages have to be scanned in a certain format and go on our server.
Yep.
Right?
For sure.
So I think we went through the invention of desktop publishing. Jack Kirby never went through that. So I think, who knows what people are going to go through even 5 years from now with AI, what all that stuff is how that's going to affect things. Somebody was even saying cell phones may be going away, and they're going to have some other way of people communicating with some glasses that you wear or things like that. They're working on that now. So who knows? Will you be doing your web comic on your glasses? like Stephen Hawking moving your eyeballs to draw your 900th episode of the Middle Ages.
Yeah, you start admiring artists for their eye brushwork.
I like that.
I think it's a bit, yeah, no, but
well, you don't think so? You don't think you wouldn't get you wouldn't be an earlier adopter to the AI eyeglass drawing program?
I mean, there's already like people who do that Oculus stuff, like where you just see like the little like hand moving stuff around. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Well, that's our next sketch talk.
We'll all be putting our eye down on our
plugged into our chairs as
the Johnny Mnemonic sketch talk. Guys, we got a banger for you tonight. We have a great show for you tonight. Let's get this ball rolling, you guys. In the green room, Fabrice Sapolsky is with us. Fabrice is a fantastic modern Renaissance man who, as like a lot of us talk about things in the system, Fabrice is someone who is doing it. Not only is he a creative writer, designer, editor, publisher, he's on the. We were just talking before we came on about him being on the road, being a road warrior.
Yeah.
Right. With that, either the Mel Gibson version or the football pad, hockey pad spike guys. Where you want to do it. I think it's super important for us to have these conversations with creatives who are, I'll even say, kind of like breaking the mold of kind of what you think comic book people do these days. You have these kind of sexy ideas of somebody sitting in their chair just drawing, but it's like the other part of the iceberg that we don't talk about enough, I think, is the administrative part. You kind of networking, setting things up. You have staff, you have teams, you have meetings, you have Zooms. You got to get on planes. All that kind of stuff is just as important as your line weight these days. So, I'm sure we're going to have a really fantastic conversation. Let's waste no more time. Let's get ready for rendering. Please welcome to Pencil to Pencil, Fabrice Sapolsky. Ping. Hey, Fabrice, you still there?
I love this. I love the little.
You like that? Yeah,
yes.
What am I
put my disco thing in here, but it's just for the intro. I'm gonna put the lights on. this is funny. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you for being here. I was really. Oh, now
hot time starting.
You're about to launch the time machine. You're going to start splitting into 4 people. You got the colliders going.
Well, this is the 4D effect tonight.
I love it. Also, guys, I'm sorry, Fabrice. Real quick. Also,
thank you for having me. That's all.
Oh, we're so happy you're here. We have some new assets to the show. You can see there's a chat rolling on the side of Mike Manley's ear, which is very interesting. So we're still trying to bring things onto the big screen when I get a chance. But guys, enjoy the chat. Tell us what you think of this. It's still kind of new. I'm not really used to it yet, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get the show started. Fabrice, the first thing we talked about in the green room was you having to get on a plane and go somewhere very soon, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Let's talk about that. How, and this is kind of a rhetorical question, how important is travel to your business at this point?
I don't think travel is the right word.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you don't, hey, Joe Illich, I was on the phone with him earlier.
Hey, Joe.
I don't think travel is the right word because, I mean, I don't travel because only I like it. Yes, I love being at comic book shows, and let me tell you something that I rarely say is I started drawing after years of being a designer, an artist, a publisher, an editor, whatever. I started drawing because I was not making enough money at shows, and this is an artist territory. And so you're like, okay, I know that inside of me I'm an artist, but now I need to prove it because the competition is fierce and these guys are hugely talented. So if I want to keep doing what I'm doing, I need to bring my A game. So I started going to shows, working, improving up to the point where it's now not just publishable, but it gives me awards and accolades and stuff. But it's a lot of hard work, and the convention circuit is wonderful because as to improve yourself, there's nothing better than to do it like under people's watch, like as they're staring at what you're doing, you can tell that this is not good, or this is mediocre, or this is okay, or this is good. So
these are commissions. These are commissions at the conventions.
Not just commissions, not just commissions, but sometimes it's art prints or covers or pages or anything that you produce, and you can tell when you hit the sweet spot where people are going to say, okay, that I want that. And this was my education, because also you're next to giants. Like your table neighbor can be someone with 40 years of experience, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna see how it's like doing this, and like, I can learn a trick or two. So and you have that on both sides usually. So in Art Alley. So yeah, so conventions have been an integral part, not just to my journey as an artist, but it's also, let's face it, as of now, and I hope we talk about it a little later, but it's the only way to make a decent money in this environment that is extremely tough. So yeah, that's why I'm doing 30 shows this year, and I did 26 last year and 25 the year before. It is what it is,
Of course, yeah.
So when you you going to the conventions as an artist, are you signed up as are you there wearing your publisher hat? When you're going, are you going as all those things?
Yeah. But that's the interesting thing is nowadays I kind of pick and choose the ones where I will wear my artist hat. Some people find me even if I table as Fairsquare Graphics, which is the name of my company. When I table at Fairsquare Graphics, usually I'm there to sell the books. Sometimes people show up and say, "Hey, can you draw this?" And I'm like, "I don't have my equipment. I don't have my stuff with me." And it actually happened like in Philly a couple weeks ago, where someone came to the table and said, like, "I came especially to this table for you to draw something for me." And I said, like, "Well, but I'm here to sell the books. I don't have my stuff." He said, "No worries. I can pay you now, and you can deliver when you can." And that's great because, I mean, everyone would probably agree that it's better to draw in your own studio rather than at a table with a crappy chair,
right?
And with like about 2 inches of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's absolutely. But mostly these days, I go to shows to sell the books.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it's in Art Alley.
So going along this line, and maybe travel was the wrong word. I'm thinking more of, I guess when you say travel, it sounds like you're sitting on a beach somewhere with lemon slices.
Yeah, it sounds very leisurely.
Yeah.
And it's promotion. What you're doing is you're promoting yourself.
I'm on tour. Yeah, I'm in the circus, and I'm going from town to town. But the beautiful thing is, because you mostly see a lot of the same people all year long, that creates a camaraderie that is quite unique. Because you like every week I see the same people or so. So we create this kind of like relationships, and it's like, oh, how's your life? What did you do? Like, how are the kids? Is it your second divorce? Like, how did you get screwed up at this publisher? Everything can happen, and everything in between. So yeah, this is fun.
And I think one thing about that I was trying to make this happen before you got on was just talking about how it's so important, I think, to your bottom line to get out of the house, right? I'm
Yes.
sure there's a lot of different rubrics that say yes, you can run your entire cartooning career from your chair, but
which we all do, right?
right, but there's another part of it. There's another
Yes.
element to it.
Yes,
So-
and it's a social experience. Like when we go to a show, you see other human beings. You can talk about the problems that you have. Maybe they have a better solution than the one you came up with. So it's just so important. Like it's so important. Last week in Philly, again, I spent an hour talking to Stephanie Williams.
Oh,
I love
she's
Stephanie
great.
Williams.
She's
She's
fantastic.
great.
Yeah.
And like it happened that the green room was just behind my table. So I didn't have to travel far to go to the green room. And so I show up at the green room just to have a cup of coffee. Then I see Stephanie and then we start talking. And then after an hour, we had like 2 projects. It's just like these things happen at shows. This is extremely important. This is also how we reignite the passion that we have. Because when we talk to other creators, they may have the same problems. They may have other problems, but we're all on the same boat. So.
Yeah.
And for someone who may twitch at such a heavy convention schedule, how do you kind of measure that out with, I hate to say work-life balance, because we don't really know that phrase around here, but do you kind of have to like look at your whole year and go, okay, I'm going to hit these shows, but I'm going to take off this month? Or how does that work for you?
I mean, in a perfect world, I would say yes, Jamar. But the thing is, I don't have the luxury of skipping a week, because no week, no money, and no money, mucho problemo.
Yeah. So again, just talking to younger cartoonists, I think that's a kind of almost like a scary part that they didn't know about. Like, wait, what? I got to do what? I gotta buy a fax machine, Mike Manley.
Well, I mean,
You gotta go to a landfill and find a fax machine.
There's also like there's a threshold with some cartoonists who will travel to many conventions, and you kind of feel like they're not making money. Like they promote themselves to get out there to network and all those things. But the idea of going to these conventions with the intent of making it worthwhile, like paying your mortgage or your rent or your internet bill with the returns from a convention, that is a next level kind of step that a lot of cartoonists don't make. They don't reach that point.
That's true. There's not a lot of us doing this, but I know enough, believe me. And I mean, I'm surprised that money is not part of the conversation, like especially in the United States, where this is not a problem to talk about money usually. But money is not part of the conversation because there's kind of a romanticization of what it is to be a cartoonist, what it is to be a creator. And people think that we're swimming in cash every time we publish a book.
Right.
And it's like, I get that all the time. I get people all the time coming to my tables like every time that my name is in the Google News stuff because of my former life as a Marvel freelancer. People come to the table and say like, oh, you must be happy. You must be swimming in cash. And I'm like, no, I get nothing. So what do you expect?
Right.
Like shareholders get a lot on my back, but I get nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the dead check, which is what I was talking about earlier.
Well, you need to. I mean, I understood very early on in this business that you need to take care of yourself because no one is going to take care of you. And these are hard truths, but these truths need to be told. Like when a kid comes to the table and say like, "Oh, I want to be like you when I grow up," my answer is don't.
What was was that part of the impetus to become a publisher? Was like to take control of the?
No, it came out of necessity and rage.
Excellent. Big fan of Rage. I'm a big fan of Rage.
I mean, I've always kind of been an entrepreneur because I'm a kid who doesn't take no for an answer, And so I founded my first company. I was 20. 26. Yeah, 27. And it's because no one wanted me to be a comic book journalist at the time. I was obsessed with the press. It was in the days where the press meant something. So I wanted to be a comic book journalist, and I was like, no one wants to launch a comic book magazine with me. Okay, I'll do it. So I took the risk. I plunged, and I created a magazine in my home country in France. I created this magazine called Comic Box that ended up lasting 17 years.
Wow.
And even though I left the position of editor in chief after, I don't know, 13 years, which is already a lot. The magazine kept going after me, and I kept being somewhat involved in some fashion after I departed this position. But it's a source of pride, and it's the same thing. Like when I wanted to start making comics, yes, the Marvel thing happened, and it was, I thought it would be a launch pad. It was not. It was just an event, and then disappeared. So I quickly understood that if I wanted to be serious about comics, especially American comics, because this is what I love. I love American comics. I fell in love with American comics when I was 7 years old, and I opened Savage Sword of Conan, and that was my first comic, Conan the Barbarian. If I wanted to be serious about it, I needed to come live in the United States and be closer to my market, and B, go create our own, because there's no other way to exist if you don't prove yourself. Because we live in a world where no one cares about you unless you make people care. And when I created Fairsquare Graphics, it was even more problematic because it was in 2020. I mean, I created the company in 2019, but it was kind of dormant for about 8-9 months. But in 2020, I was up to January 2020. I was working for a publisher as a senior editor, a publisher called Humanoids, and they let me go unexpectedly at the end of January 2020. And it was like a month before lockdown and COVID hit really hard. And I couldn't find a job. So I needed to create my own job. And Fairsquare Graphics became my job.
Wow.
Period.
Well, they always say that mother is the,
necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother. Yeah.
I think where we are in the timeline of the industry, it really behooves people starting out to really almost try to start that way rather than the other way, because it used to be that if you worked for Marvel and DC, that could like rev you up, and then maybe, like Legend, all those guys, the idea was like, we work for Marvel and DC, we build our fan base, we take that fan base with us to our own projects. But
remember, Mike, it always worked for a very small amount of people.
Right.
And that's from the beginning. Right. And it's still the case today. Yeah, some of them can actually build a career and be hyped up and create their own empire. Some of them, but it's really a minority. And I was not going to be the favorite child. Never. First, how many immigrants do you have in this kind of position on the market? 0. So it was just up to me. I needed to create my own hype and create my own stuff, because let me tell you a funny story that's not so funny. In 2014, I was having lunch with a Marvel editor that will remain unnamed. And I was about to pay for lunch because I was very happy that he took the time to spend an hour with me. And so I said, okay, so when are we going to talk about what I can do for you guys next? And he said to me, very seriously. He said, Fabrice, I don't want to kill your dreams, but there's almost no chance that you're going to work with us again. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, I mean, English not your first language, and you know, you haven't really been out there. And I'm like, pardon me. First, this is rude, and second, I'll prove you wrong.
Mhm.
And I'm still here, also because of people like that who will flat out tell you that you can't make it, that you can't succeed, that you can't have a book, that you can't be who you said you would be. And I was very clear, and I'm still clear to this day. No one has the right to tell you if you belong to this industry or not. You're the only one who can tell yourself if you have to quit or stick to it.
That's great.
I love it. Good night, everybody. That was fantastic.
So did you ever have any contact later on with that same guy, gal?
Unfortunately, I did. But it was always disappointing in the end.
So in 2020, you're the humanoids, and you have parted company, and
I mean, they parted ways with me.
I was adding a nice little sheen to it. But so you've got to start a new company to bring in money, and you think, okay, comics. I'm going to make some comics.
Yeah. I'm going to make some graphic novels. Yeah.
How do you how did that process start with you? Did you go? Did you have an idea for a graphic novel? Were you looking at the market and saying this is what the market needs? How did you approach that?
So the first few months, thanks to the pandemic, my unemployment kept going. So it was like, and unemployment is usually like 3 to 5 months, give or take. But it kept going because, like, I got people from the unemployment services in California. Back in the day, I was living in California. They were like calling me every 2 or 3 months. They say like, "Are you keep filling the papers and like keep like looking for a job?" Yes. Is that going to be a problem? I said, no. Did you find a job? No. No one is answering me, or I get to the first interview and never called back, or I get ghosted or whatever. They say, well, we're not going to ask you to push. We understand that it's not easy for a lot of people your age. I was hitting 50, so it's like, okay, you're old. You're old on top of everything.
Oh man.
And then the George Floyd murder happened, and it's a story that I often tell, and I have to say, something changed. I was talking to my good friend T.C. Harris, who's a Black journalist and editor that lives in Maryland, and he saw how upset and angry I was at the situation affecting not just George Floyd but the entire Black community, and he said to me, "Well, you know how to make comics, right? So you do just that, and you'll be a good ally." And him and I started developing the project that would become Noir is the New Black, which was an anthology of noir stories by Black creators. And because I had credibility in the noir space due to my Marvel days, it was kind of like a no-brainer. And I attached my name to other Black creators, and we together build a project where they sing and dance, and I just hold the mic, and I'm just happy to be in the back. And that's the cover to the next one that we're starting. We're starting in on Juneteenth, but I have the cover to the original one that is here.
Okay, very cool.
And so Noir is the New Black. We raised $48,000 on Kickstarter with no art and no script and nothing, just based on the concept, which is mind-blowing. And 8 months later, we had a 148-page anthology, and at the time it was 38 creators. And then we did a second edition because it went quickly, sold out. We did the second edition, then the third edition. Now it's 18 stories and 47 creators. And as I said, we're about to launch a second wave on Juneteenth on Kickstarter. That it's going to be Noir the New Black Season 2, Episode 1, and where we're going to have like a bunch of creators that I'm not naming yet, but you'll know next week. Like we'll start rolling it next week, but I'm extremely excited by this new version of Noir the New Black.
That's fantastic.
And it was how the company started.
That's fantastic. I just have a quick question about the personnel management when you're dealing with that many creatives. How have you found your kind of experience just dealing with, like managing that many people on a project?
Oh, well, let me tell you, I'm a pretty impatient man. But when I have my editor's hat on, I discover the virtues of patience. And you need patience, and you need diplomacy, and you need to understand. You need empathy, and you need all that on top of have a sharp vision and know exactly where you're heading. Because if you're not confident in the project or the schedule or the budget or the ideas, no one's going to follow you. So you need to prove yourself constantly. And it is a challenge because every new book is a new challenge. So like we did Noir the New Black, but then we did other anthologies after, we did other books. We're working with creators from all around the world. And even now, after like 45 titles that we already published in the past 5 years, everything is just like the first one.
Wow. Was it a challenge to get, so you're starting a publishing company, comic book, graphic novels.
with no money, with zero.
And the world is shutting down, and this distribution is shutting down.
Yeah.
And comic shops are closed.
Yeah.
And so you go to crowdfunding. That was your first place, right? But then there's all the logistics of trying to, we've got no infrastructure, and we're going to have to fulfill all this stuff.
I've fulfilled everything myself. And to this day, I launched 15 campaigns since then. 14 and Noir the New Black. 14 campaigns since then, and I'm still fulfilling everything from this office.
Wow.
So you're doing all they ship the books to you and you ship them out?
Yep. I ship them out. I take care of the merch. I take care of the logistics of everything. I do everything myself. The post office, the guy comes every morning. Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic.
But you also must enjoy that part of it, because
absolutely not. I hate it.
Really?
I hate it.
But the only way to not do it is you'd have to pay somebody else to do it.
Well, when you have the money to pay, I don't. That's why I'm doing everything myself. It's all by necessity. It's never out of joy. I don't enjoy dealing with shoot, I'm missing some envelopes or Gemini mailers or whatever, or I don't have enough tape to close my stuff, and I have to quickly order from Amazon because I didn't pay attention to the stocks. I have to have my eyes on everything. This is not easy. This is hard, but you know what? This is the job. This is the job. I'm not complaining about it. It is what it is.
How do you handle things? How do you handle things like inventory with so many titles? How is that?
Well, I have spreadsheets. So I have spreadsheets, and up to when the world was normal, meaning up to January 14th of this year, when Diamond went bankrupt, I was also doing a lot of back and forth with the Diamond warehouse.
Right.
Where most of our main inventory is, because you imagine, yes, I have a 1,000 square feet apartment, but there's so much you can store there.
Right.
And especially with the conventions and all, I said we have here about 500 books on rotation, 500 copies of books on rotation. and then we keep adding and selling and adding and selling, and it keeps moving. So yeah, but there's not much that I can do with that. But now that Diamond is probably coming to an end by the end of this year, I'm going to have to deal with the stock.
So they will send the stock back to you, or
no? I have to. They will do nothing. It's my stock. I have to take care of it.
So how would you do that? You would have to go get it?
Probably rent a truck and go to Missouri and load everything in there, and 7,000 books are going to go somewhere. Yeah.
Wow.
So you'd have to rent a space.
Well, I have to rent a space, or I will probably have other people help me. The good thing about talking to other creators is that a lot of indie creators that are self-publishing, they have kind of like very inventive and creative solutions to deal with that kind of stuff. So you learn a lot from them. And there's also the fact that I can announce today that we're joining a new initiative called Filbo Distribution, which has been created by this guy called Philip Russert. And he's an independent creator like us, but he decided that distribution needed to get a little update, a little upgrade. So he decided to take the matter into his own hands because it was so difficult for him to find a distribution deal. So, and when I met him a few months ago, he said, like, I'm doing this distribution initiative. If you're in, if you want to. And I was like, I'm not ready. I'm still waiting to know what's going on with Diamond and all. But I talked to Diamond earlier, and then an hour later, I called him and I said, okay, I'm in. We're starting. And I can confirm that some of our direct market, it's not exclusive, but some of our direct market is going to go to Filbo Distribution. And I'm very, very proud and very, very happy to be working with him because A, he's honest. 2, he's also a creator like me. And 3, his heart is in a good place. He cares deeply about the distribution. He cares deeply about the books. He cares about the retailers. He cares about all that. I trust him.
How do you spell Filbo?
PHILBO.
Okay. And they'll be an independent distributor of
independent distributor coming to the direct market starting in October.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. I also love ground floor things.
Yeah.
We got to start
I
somewhere.
still have to solve the issue for the bookstores,
Right.
because we're not big on the direct market as Fairsquare Graphics. Our playground is more the bookstores because we're not doing single issues. This is something that I quickly understood was not for us. And also I think it saved us in a way because when Diamond started experiencing a lot of trouble last year, the publishers that have been hit the most are the publishers who were heavy into single issues. Because of course, when you release an issue every month, you print, it goes really fast. And if you don't get the returns, if you don't get the money back,
right,
you're in dry pretty fast also. Right. So it was clear that because we don't do single issues, but mostly graphic novels or small graphic novels like 80 page to 300 pages, we were less impacted by this whole shenanigan than some others. And I'm very happy that we took this decision early on to just not invest on single issues. The only single issues that we're doing are through Kickstarters because it's easier to fund.
Right. Right. So you do single issues through Kickstarter and then collect them, and those are the books that you're really building toward the trade. There's a collection.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That's great.
And it's the same. We have also a same kind of like different strategy when it comes to digital. We don't do any digital right now, except for Kickstarters. Like we're offering digital versions of our books on Kickstarters, but you can't find them on any platform. I don't like their deals. And we don't distribute them directly so far because I haven't cracked that code. So we might try some experiments a little later in this year, but right now this is it. Like,
So how are you distributing your digital Kickstarter awards?
well, I distribute them directly, like through links.
Oh, you send customers the backers
Yeah.
a link to download. That's great.
Yeah.
They don't do that on BackerKit. I'm showing my ignorance as far as digital downloads.
So BackerKit has a brilliant system for digital distribution that I experimented last year. But the problem with BackerKit that I have is that I don't really like their pledge managing system as a whole, because it feels like a trap to me. That is, there's a thirst, like it always asking you for more, and it's very rigid. Like they keep asking for more information, more stuff. Like it's great when you make it work, but there's like you need to be an engineer to go through this thing. So it's not simple.
I hear you.
And now Kickstarter also has a pledge manager, but they're not rolling out the digital distribution just yet. It's something that I talked to them about, and they're very interested in doing digital distribution down the road, but they're not ready. So, but I trust Kickstarter. I also have a very good relationship with them, and it helps. Like when you're doing like a lot of campaigns, they start to get to know you better, and they understand your needs, and they're good people. I like working with Kickstarter. I mean, I also like working with BackerKit, but it's just that I don't enjoy their pledge manager.
Yeah, Steve is our resident Kickstarter guru, so you're speaking his language right now.
Not 14 in 5 years though. That's something. That's amazing.
So
again, it's out of necessity. Like when your distribution collapses, what else can you do to distribute your books? De facto, Kickstarter has become a distributor. They're an alternative distributor, but they are a distributor, whether we like it or not. So it's a channel, the same way the direct market, the book market, the libraries are channels. It's a different channel, but it is a channel. And you see a different type of audience that you see at shows, that you see in comic stores, that you see in libraries. And it's also very interesting to see how this population reacts, what they like, what they pledge for. There's a lot to learn about, this kind of like behavior, the way they consume comics and graphic novels.
Fabrice, I have a question for you about your relationship with kind of traditional bookstores and things like that. How is that working for you underneath this graphic novel model?
It's like dating. The relationship is complicated. Because of course it's not one size fits all.
Right.
Books, you have the independent bookstores, you have the big platforms, you have the semi-big platforms. You don't have the same kind of relationship when you work with Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any independent bookstore at the corner of your street, at least in the big cities, or even any other shop that happens to have a corner with some graphic novels, like some Targets, for example. You don't talk to them the same way. And during the Diamond days, everything was simpler because we could talk to the rep and they knew how to talk to them. Now, it's kind of like the Wild West. We need to rebuild everything from scratch. And before you ask the question why I'm not going to another distributor right now, it's because I tried. And every deal that I was presented with was horrible. And I am extremely disappointed by the state of distribution in this country. I'm extremely disappointed. There's a big need for disruption. There's a big need for reevaluating everything about distribution. Yes, this is a big country. Yes, everything is expensive. That being said, there's a certain threshold. There's a certain level of competence that you expect from these people. Number two, when they offer you deals, that take most of the cover price. Why are you even distributing? This is confiscatory, you know? This is like, I had distributors asking for 75% of my cover price.
Oh,
This is insane. I understand that they have to make a living. I understand that they have to pay retailers. They have to give a discount to the retailer. But how do we survive on 15, 20%, 25%? We can't. We need to pay creators. We need to pay printer. We need to pay marketing. We need to pay ourselves. It's impossible on such a small margin. And that's something that we try to educate people about. Because when people are like, oh, you're not in the big things, like, do you understand how much it costs? It costs a lot of money. So if it's just being available for the sake of being available, and let's put it right there for a second. A big player like Amazon, okay? This is something that I rarely hear people talking about. You go to Amazon, you distribute your books to Amazon. Your distributor goes to Amazon and say, okay, this company, Fairsquare Graphics, has a brand new title, is great. All right, we'll take 25. This is Amazon, one of the richest companies on earth, okay? They have a lot of money. They take 25 or 50 copies of your book. How do you create your print run? How do you estimate the demand? If the biggest player in town tells you that they're going to take 25 or 50 copies of your book, why? Because they are a data-driven company. What do? They expect you, as a publisher, to bring customers to them so that they can buy your books.
Right.
I'm sorry, this is a travesty. This is not how it works.
and what about before getting into that point and printers now? Were you using a lot of overseas printers?
No, I don't print overseas.
Okay.
I always refused to print farther than Canada. Number one, because I like the idea of keeping the jobs in North America. Number two, because carbon footprint in Asia is horrible. Number three, because it takes forever. Like up to between 12 and 16 weeks in Asia.
Wow.
So it's not tenable. When you're a small publisher, you want things fast. And remember, I come from the press. I come from an environment where I finish an issue of a magazine, 2 weeks later it's in stores.
Right.
So I can't really, it's not in my DNA to kind of wait for 3 months to get my book.
And the longer it takes to get the books back, the longer it takes to fulfill, the longer it takes to start the next Kickstarter. I get that, yeah.
Or it's the same thing when you put the books in stores. And also, you're at the mercy of a lot of intimate, like a lot of people in between, a lot of middle people. At the port, there's a strike, you're screwed for 3 months. It happened. It happened in LA a few years ago. And I remember some of my fellow publishers, they were like, oh shit, we have all this shipment from China that is at the LA port, and there's a strike, and we don't know when our books are going to be released. And I'm like, well, too bad. I print in Canada, and I get my books in 2 weeks. That's it. I pay more, but I also charge more. Our books are more expensive because we print local.
Mm-hmm.
And how much more expensive is it? Do you think for that?
Let me give you an example. So here's one of my creator own, Intertwine, The Spirit of Oozing, okay? It's a 300 pages volume, all right? That is in a format called flex case. So it's between the hardcover and the softcover.
Right.
That book, 300 pages, full color, with a beautiful, like, shiny gold finish on top. The print bill is $12,000 for 1,500 copies. Had I printed it in China, it would have been half that amount.
Wow.
Okay. With
But
the
then
shipping,
you have all the other complicating factors.
and yes, so I'm selling the book for $39.99. But let me tell you, when I went to Diamond and I said, this is $39.99, they said, you're not going to sell it. And indeed, stores didn't sell it well. But I'm selling it like crazy at shows. Because when people see it in real life, they understand the value.
Yeah.
Most of the problems that we have in our industry is perceived value. People don't realize that a beautiful book is not just a beautiful piece of art. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of machinery that includes great creators, great paper, great printing, great finish, great marketing, everything great. It has a cost. If you are ready to pay your fruits and veggies 30% more when you go to Whole Food, you can pay a little bit more to get creators what they're worth.
Yeah.
I'm loving this episode.
and that's also why I never do any discounts. I never do any specials. I mean, except if the books are like not like 100%, you know, sometimes they're a little beaten up. I will give you like $2, $3.
Totally.
But I don't do anything. I don't do any freebies. Sometimes we do an incentive, like you buy two, you have a little discount on the third one, or you get an art print or something like that. But the books are not meant to be discounted. And this is one of my main arguments of issues, single issues periodicals versus graphic novels. This will never be in the $1 bin. Never. And when I tell that to retailers, they're like, you're right. Let's order 5 more Batman. And that's the power of brands, which is something that I can't do anything against.
I love it. The chat is in stunned silence, Fabrice.
A lot of amens.
I am animated. I believe in what I do. I believe in what I do.
Do you feel the need to have a common style to all your books, to have that your publishing company has a set look?
House style?
Yeah, house style.
I mean, considering I'm designing all of them, I guess you could say that that's my taste.
Sure.
But I don't really know. I try to make things different. And I mean, you'll see when we hit the art that I sent to JAMAR, and we can talk about the art later. But I don't know. Like when you look at Noir's the New Black, Noir's the New Black is different from Mutiny Black Girl Magic, which is another title that we have. This is the holofoil version, by the way, which is different from Red Flower, which is an African manga that we're publishing. Everything is different, and we try to create something that is unique every time we do a book. But also because we're doing some licensing, or we're working with creators that have their own ideas, we try to accommodate them and try to respect their vision, so that we fit into their vision, they fit into ours, and we create something great.
Fabrice, can you talk about your creator collaborative deal real quick? Because I know a lot of creators these days are very kind of like wary of getting into bed with companies. Yeah, just like, you know,
and I can't blame them, because most publishing deals suck. And that's because, number one, a lot of publishers treat creators like children. We don't. The first thing that I do when I start working with a creator is to send them a budget, and we discuss the budget. And when they have the realities of what a comic book or graphic novel costs and how much we can get from it, the conversation is way easier, because they understand that, okay, there's some kind of level of sales that we're going to be able to achieve considering our size. And I'm saying that in all transparency, we will never, in the near future at least, be able to sell hundreds of thousands of copies, because we don't have the recognition, we don't have the name recognition that will make us part of a group of publishers that will sell this. So we're going to plateau at one point. But what we don't give in that kind of exposition, we give in every other domain. And number one is respect. Second is freedom, and third is transparency. I share everything. Like I share the statements I get from the distributors. I share the numbers that I make at convention. I have no problem sharing everything. When I hit a roadblock, I tell the creators. When I'm happy and we have a victory, I tell the creators. And it's how it should be. This is how we want to be treated as creators. We want to be treated. It's the golden rule. And we created. I mean, Fairsquare Graphics is not just me. It's me and my wife Crystal and my son Ethan. It's a family business. We all have this kind of like huge sense of ethics where we want people to feel safe when they're working with us. We want them to be understood, to be respected. That doesn't mean that we always succeed. Sometimes we fuck up just like everybody because there's a misunderstanding or because something happened and we have to take the blame even though it's us. It's not us. It happens. But or we promised that we would pay on that date and other things show up and we are not paid ourselves and we have trouble paying. But I'm always transparent. Like this is something that I learned from my first bankruptcy all those years ago in France, is that when you're honest with people, they tend to understand your struggles. And if they understand your struggles, even if you owe them money, they will respect you. It's like people caving when their banker calls and they're in the red. This is not something you do.
Mike, what were you going to say?
Oh, I'm just going to say one of the things about the publishing business in general is that you have to take the word of the publisher, because you can't look at their books. That's what they sold, and are they skewing it a little bit this way? They're skewing it a little bit that way. You don't know whether they're always making the best decision. I mean, they're always making the best decision for them, never necessarily the best decision for you.
Right. Well, this is where being a creator myself and Crystal being a creator herself makes a huge difference.
Right.
Like how many publishing companies, like how many comic book and graphic novel publishing companies are owned, operated by comic book creators, artists, writers that are still doing it? How many? Count them on two hands. You will have trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the only one I can think of, or the easiest, would probably be Image.
Image is not a company, Mike. Image is a cooperative that is formed with 6 studios,
right?
Of which, we could talk about Image all night if you want. Like Image is a company, is a group, okay, that is created by people who apparently defend creator-owned, but not for themselves. You work for Todd McFarlane Productions, everything is owned by Todd McFarlane Productions. You work for Top Cow, everything is owned by Top Cow. You work for Robert Kirkman, it used to be very open, now it's more like 75 to 95% is owned by them. It is not the model that they pushed. Out of 6 partners, there's only one place. I mean, 2 technically, even though Jim Valentino is kind of semi-retired. He doesn't do much yet, these days. But there's only one portion of it, 1/6 of that group, which is Image Central, that allows full creator-owned. And the doors are not open for everybody. And the deals are different for everybody. So it's its own beast.
So if Eric's printing your book, Todd's printing your book, or whoever's printing your book, it's a different deal.
I don't understand the question.
Well, like if you go through Image Central to print your stuff, you don't have the same deal that the original creators had.
So the original creators, the deal was very simple. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that. When you go to Image, the standard the standard image deal. And I know for a fact because for a hot minute, I had a book at Image.
Mhm.
And you when you release a single issue, you have a standard fee of $2,500.
Right.
And then and whether you sell 100 copies or 100,000 is going to be $2,500.
Right.
Then you have to pay something like 30% on trades, if my memory is correct.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's the worst deal. I'm saying that considering the state of the market today, it's not adapted because the market has collapsed to a level where it makes no sense to take 2,500 on the single issue. Because remember one thing, you go with Image, they will choose your paper stock. You don't have a say. They will choose when your book is going to be published. You don't have a say. And they will send you a statement where there's absolutely no way for you to check if these numbers are real or not. You have to trust them. There's no audit. There's no independent company that is going to make sure that what they're saying you sold is actually true.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say that they're trying to play coy, to rub you. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it raises a question of transparency. There's no transparency there. You just have to accept what they're giving you after everybody paid itself.
Right.
You know? And that's the reason why when we are doing a Kickstarter with third-party creators, and North Indian Black is a great example, we make creators sign a deal with their page rate on it. Period. They own the fruit of their labor. They own their IP. As a matter of fact, I have a very good example. When we did North Indian Black, we had David Walker on the book. He did a 6-page story with the late Mark Wright, which was great. It was called Heart of the Matter. I loved it. He loved it. It was one of these beautiful moments. And to my knowledge, it was Mark Wright's very last comic book story before he passed. I'm sorry. And a few years later, David calls me up and say, hey, what should I do to get my story? I would love to republish it in the back of something that I'm publishing through my small company. And I'm like, David, this is your story. We have paid for it, but it's yours. So as long as, and that's the deal, as long as we can keep publishing it in Noirs and New Black forever, you can reuse it wherever you may see fit. It is your story. And now he's doing another graphic novel with the same character, not with us, alone. And he's still using that story that he put in the back. And I'm very proud. I'm happy for him. Go and make millions. This is his story. And every one of our creators has the same deal. They keep the rights of everything, 100% of their creative rights. The only thing we're asking is that they're not launching a product that is going to compete with ours. So it has to be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be warned. But everyone is free, you know? There's no way you can stop a creator from creating. There's no way you can stop a creator from doing what they want. You know, this is a side note, but I learned my marketing from Prince because this guy knew a little thing about owning your stuff.
Yeah.
And this is where I learned like how important it is that creators stay in control.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think also you sort of have to have that has to be important to you, number one. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily think of that as it being important until after something happens and they can't use that story, you know, or things get tangled up or the rights are tangled up and then, there's been several times, in the last couple of years where somebody did a character for a company, then that company goes bankrupt, or the assets are,
Clearly, Action Lab, Aftershock, it hurt creators so much. And I'm still mad at these people. Look, I had the Action Lab contract in hand in 2015. Like, I met with this guy. Brian Seaton. He was the owner of this company. And he said, like, I like what you're doing. I would love you to do your next project with us. Then he sends me a 3-page contract where it said that basically he had the rights to, it was creator owned, but he had the right to publish my shit in perpetuity. And I'm like, I'm never signing this contract. Unfortunately, some other of my friends signed that contract, and now their creation is blocked somewhere and tangled in a legal web of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sad for them. But the first thing that you have to do when you get a contract and you're a young creator or even a seasoned creator is either you know how to read the language or you lawyer up. You can't trust anyone. And you know what? Even me, like, my contracts have been challenged, and I'm very glad if any creator has an objection to try to accommodate them if the contract remains fair. You don't call your company Fairsquare if you're not going to be that.
Got a point there. Fabrice, before we run out of time, let's look at some images. Why don't we?
Yes, let's talk about art.
Yes,
we talked a lot about business, but we don't talk about art here. What the hell is wrong with us?
So the first thing I'm going to put on the screen is Tintin. Look at me using my language. Tintin. I love Tintin. All right, let's get this going. All right, what are we looking at here?
You're looking at cover A for one of my new books called The Big Lie, which obviously stars this character, the Belgian reporter, and he's Dog. And this is something so experimental that I'm doing here. So it's a light novel. So that means that it's a mix of sequential art and prose. And I'm writing and drawing this with a little bit of help from my friend Stéphane Roux and Moritat, Justin Norman Moritat. Both of them kind of like are serving as art directors for me. But I'm writing and drawing everything. And this is a huge deal for me because I think I've never drawn that many sequential art pages in my entire life. And I can do it because of the style, because because I have a tendency of overthinking art a lot. Because of the simplicity of the style, I can focus on storytelling. I can focus on everything else, and it's extremely liberating to do that. So what you're seeing here is a double page spread, because in the story, Tintin, the 1929 version, that is the only version that I can use because it's the only one that is public domain in the United States. The 2029 version gets plucked out of his reality, and then gets sent to 2025 New York in the real world, and discovers that everything that he thought was true was a lie, hence the title, The Big Lie. There's a lot of breaking the fourth wall. There's a lot of huge references to everything in the story, but it's basically a book about creators' rights. It's about creators' rights, and it's about a character that realizes that he's not a person. He's a character. He's been created. He doesn't have any parents. You may remember the name of his parents, but it's not real. And that's that's the first big lie. Now the second big lie, because this is very meta. Like we're going into, like, it's Inception. Every time I'm pushing a door, I'm opening another one. Did you guys know that Tintin was very likely inspired by a book from 1870 where the main character is called Tintin and has a dog called Richard. And he's also an adventurer that goes around the world to solve some mysteries. This book exists. I've seen it.
Hmm.
And I am dropping that in my book.
I love it.
So thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray, for the comment.
So when you decided you came up with this idea, I imagine
Yeah.
you had to do some research to figure out what you could legally use, right? Like what?
So everything happened very quickly. I had the idea a few days before the end of the year, actually. I just realized before January 1st that, oh shit, Tintin is going to be public domain in the United States. I need to strike first. So I announced a campaign, a Kickstarter campaign on January 1st. But then at the time, the only thing that I had was the concept of the character of the Belgian reporter of Tintin being plucked out of his own reality and landing in 2025 and being a stranger in a strange land, which is exactly the opposite of what Tintin is. Like in Tintin, he always gets a plan. He's always smarter than everybody. But out of a sudden, he's not the smartest guy in the room anymore. He is the lost one in the room, the lost one in the universe. And there's kind of a dynamic, a reverse dynamic with the dog. Like in the book, the dog is always following the master. And yes, he's a smartass, but yes, he's also like not always like the most courageous dog. But in this story, there's a shift. Like he's the Jiminy Cricket. He's the one who gets the thing. And there's a lot of Pinocchio references, hence the cover when you see that he has this big nose. Well, that's because I thought that a book called The Big Lie needed to have something that was spectacular on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when he lands in 2025, he has the big nose, and the closer he gets to the truth, his nose becomes normal. And the thing that I'm figuring things out as I go. I mean, I always had the ending.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's how I create my content. I would start with the beginning and the ending, and then I populate what's in between. But I had no idea how I would get to the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And then I clicked somewhere between March and April. So a month after I finished the Kickstarter. Like I started the Kickstarter, I didn't know how I would get to the end. Now I do. And that also changed the nature of the project, because initially I thought I would do a 44-page book. Now it's going to be 100 pages. I'm at 65 pages already. So it's just like, and everything becomes so natural. It's an extremely liberating project. I really love doing this. And because by the end of the book, the Belgian reporter will be a different character, I think I can, like, if we get a commercial success in stores, I guess I can envision a follow-up with a new version of what they will be, and at that point, it will not be public domain; it will be creator-owned.
Right.
How and to get to the craft of it, how are you making these pages?
So I do my roughs on paper. I actually have I bought myself a little book, like this, where it's called the manga art book. But I thought it was brilliant. So they have these kind of like vignettes. And so I'm doing my thumbnails on there. And then after that, I have some illustrations that I'm doing. Like, for example, like I was doing one of these scenes that are in the book. And then everything else is like, well, that is a good example. I don't know if people are going to be able to see, but
it's light.
This illustration is exactly in the page that you showed, like where he's like stuck on the grid, on
Mhm.
the panel grid. This illustration was drawn there, and then I scanned it, and it was digitally integrated in the rest.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of a mix of that's the one that is bottom right. That's a mix of things. Like I also did that I can show. It's going to be easier to see. I did this illustration of the main characters because I'm doing a Back to the Future variant, and so I drew them like just like in Back to the Future, and then it became the cover that I drew on Clip Studio Paint.
Oh yeah, I love
I
it.
finalized on Clip Studio Paint. So yeah, and then when I work with Stefan and Justin, what we do is that depending, like I have an idea or they have an idea, and we kind of mix our ideas together, and it's made like with multiple hands. We enhance each other's ideas, and then sometimes I get my perspective wrong or I get my anatomy wrong, and Stefan corrects me. Like we're doing some live chats because he lives in Wisconsin. We're doing some live chats, and he's like, "Well, like there, like this nose is not right, or this pose is not really in sync." So and I'm changing live as he's telling me. So it's really an art direction thing. Like he's overseeing me when I draw this.
I love this. Oh, Fabrice, our buddy Kurt's Pencils at YouTube says, when's the release date, Fabrice?
So officially, I mean, originally it was supposed to be released in July, but because I extended like the book and now it's bigger than it used to be, I think I'll finish in July, and I think it's going to be ready for the end of August. That's probably accurate.
And I also wanted to just give you some props because when that Kickstarter was going, it felt like it was everywhere, you know. And I think the promotion was really really great. And
I worked so hard on this.
Yeah,
so hard on this.
I saw it. It was out there.
So when will this be? This version, your version. When would it be able to be printed in or shown in Europe, sold in Europe?
It won't.
It won't ever be able to.
Okay.
The trademark still.
So here's it's up to interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
The hard line is I cannot sell my book outside of the United States until 2054.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard line. Now, the more I'm working on it, and like it's not just this character and his dog. I added Popeye, Steamboat Willie, Winnie the Pooh, Oswald the Rabbit, the Golden Age Daredevil. There's a multitude of characters in this book. Yellow Kid. There's a multitude of characters in the book that have various roles. It is not a Tintin-centric book anymore. And as a matter of fact, the name Tintin is only written twice in the whole book. I really researched it so much like that it becomes this kind of parody. And if it's a parody, then it's a very different category of products.
Right.
And that I can sell everywhere.
So they could try to say that's not a parody, that's the real Tintin.
But the truth is they will. If I trigger this, they will sue. But I have counter arguments. Because A, the name of Tintin is not pronounced more than twice in the book. In the book, it's not on the cover. The cover is not Tintin. It's the Belgian reporter in The Big Lie. Second, the design of the character with his big nose is not the same character. You will agree on that.
Right.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Yves Chalon.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Steve is familiar with Yves Chalon. All right.
Yeah.
Yves Chalon created.
Hold it up again, Steve.
It was
Love it.
hugely inspired by Hergé and Ligne Claire.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yves Chaland had Freddy Lombard,
Right.
who looks like Tintin with a different nose.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
He
Steve just had
published,
this laid around. I love it.
he published many albums of Freddy Lombard. No problem. So why would I have any problem if what happened to Yves Chaland was he had no problem? He could publish it.
Right.
There you go. I love Yves Chaland.
This was so learned cartoonist. I love it.
So,
Go ahead.
so you understand the reasoning. Now they could say, yeah, but the dog is like, so what? It's a dog.
Right.
Fabrice,
I mean, I just know sometimes that those companies will nuisance lawsuit people because that's in their interest to try to see if they can
Squeeze anything out of you. They will call you a parasite. I know all this. This is why I am smart about it. The other thing that I could do is to offer it in Europe after a few years, offer it for free or pay as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Pay what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, what can they do? Nothing.
Right. You disrupt that cycle of payment. They can't say anything.
Yeah, I guess if you're not recouping any money officially selling it,
Exactly.
then it's like.
But then, it adds value to the printed version in English.
Right. Right. I mean, this is really uncharted territory in a way.
It is.
All of the big, the big characters within by 2035, I think they're all going to be Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. I think the Joker goes in 35 or 37. The Phantom goes in 32.
Yeah. And Flash Gordon in 29.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there are a lot of characters. Shout out to Ray Anthony Hyde, who's working on the Buck Rogers story right now. There's a lot in there. But let me say this. All these companies will always find a way to sue. There's a reason why 2 years ago, DC started doing a series called Batman Cape Crusader with the original designs from 1939. Because they wanted to establish that this character is still around in this design. If someone shows up in 5 years, they can say, hey, we can't use that design because this is our design. We've been there before.
Right.
This is a very thin line, and they will always try. But creators should create. We should have the final say.
Fabrice, I want to push this along because I want to look at the rest of your artwork.
Yes.
If you want to talk about some other projects that we have here on the
Yes.
slide.
Let's do this.
All right, cool. All right, let's talk. What are we looking at?
Okay, so that is a variant cover that I did for Dynamite's Terminator series.
That's very cool.
And it was a store variant. So there's this company called TopShelfComic.com. They're an online retailer. They're crazy guys. I really love them. And last year, the co-owner of that company, Will, we met actually exactly a year ago at Fan Expo Dallas, and we had an argument because he said that I was an idiot, verbatim, for not pushing my Marvel credit. Which I said, like, look, I tried for 8-9 years, and what did it bring me? Nothing. Like, people who love the Marvel characters, they love Marvel characters, and Marvel and to a certain extent DC have done a great job erasing us.
Yeah.
So, and only the brand matters. No creators, like brands create these characters out of thin air. Nobody cares. It's just about the brand. So when someone buys a commission from you with the brand that you created for these companies, or an art print, or anything, or whatever merch that you put your signature on it, they just want you to respond to a narrative that is the narrative of the corporations. And when I understood that there was nothing I could do to stop it, I moved on. and I stopped communicating about it. I don't have any presence of my Marvel credit on my table, and I haven't had that since 2020. That's because you can't create your own legacy if you're still attached to someone else's legacy.
Yeah.
And I imagine that it would be a really tough sell if someone comes over because they're seeing what has now essentially been turned into an icon. They are lured by the icon, and now you have to sell them on. And here's my anthology book of, that's a beautiful $40 gold.
That's why I'm not talking about it, because it sanitizes the conversation, and that's the only thing people want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like, let's be real, guys. We're creators. There are millions of creators that live very well in their career without having a Marvel credit. So I don't care.
The majority of cartoonists, as a matter of fact, don't have
exactly. So I don't know why it's important. It's not important. Even for Jack Kirby, it was not important. So like, he moved on. Like, he was penciling a page, boom, next page, boom, next page. So that's it. At one point, yes, I'm very proud of it, but this is not my life.
Well, the other thing that I have talked about before, it's you on a certain character, on a certain run, on a certain book that people will remember.
Yes.
That's nothing that you have any control over, because there's many artists that are fantastic artists that have done great work, but it wasn't on. It could have been on a humor book. It could have been on a war book. It could have been on another book that is not now considered to be, some fan favorite. Like, they're always going to reprint Dark Knight, right? And they're always going to reprint Watchmen, but they're never going to reprint Angel and the Ape. They're never going to reprint most of the work that many of the guys in the Silver Age or the Golden Age worked on, because that's not what fans cared about.
Yeah. I mean, unless if you're a certain age, who remembers Marshall Rogers?
Right. Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. We do, because we come from a time where creators were leading the charge. Like, remember, like, a guy like John Byrne couldn't be John Byrne today.
No.
Do you know the names? Do you know the name of the artists who have been on the X-Men in the past 3 years? I don't.
No.
Most people can't name anyone.
And that's
why? Because they keep changing them,
Yeah.
Because they don't want them to become stars. They want them to serve the brand.
Right.
That's by design, yeah.
Right. And that's because of image. That's because of image.
Yeah, because image was such a coup that the studios made sure that no one else could do it again. And it worked. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, back to Terminator. So this company, they asked me if I'm interested. We did a couple of things together, and they asked me if I'm interested in pitching an idea for a Terminator variant. And I'm like, I want to do something like John Malkovich, the movie from the 90s. And of course, with Terminator heads, Terminator masks. And that's what I drew. And so I put together quickly a little sketch, and I sent it to them, immediately approved.
Amazing.
So then I'm like, shit, how am I going to do this? It's going to take me ages. So I only drew 3 different heads, and I did it digitally, but I drew each one of the bodies. I did not duplicate the bodies. I only duplicated the heads. Now, I put some Easter eggs in it. If you look on the left side, this Terminator is wearing the same outfit as Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first Terminator. But on the right side, he wears the jacket that Arnold Schwarzenegger wore on Terminator 2. And I put a lot of different, like, small stuff in all of them. And I'm very happy with this cover. The biggest challenge after doing it was to find the right color artist, and I think Frank Martin colored it, but it was like 2 or 3 passes because he didn't really know. So we talked a bit about how I really wanted the thing, but I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah,
I don't sell many of them. I have a few here. I don't sell many of them, but I have them. So if people want to buy them signed, I have three versions. I have the one with the trade dress. I have this one, which is the Virgin variant, and I even have a very fancy foil cover that they produced. So yeah, absolutely. But I love working with these guys at Top Shelf Comics. I actually did a Transformers cover that they had with Skybound. That was amazing because I never drew any Transformers. As a matter of fact, I never drew a robot before last year. And I was at a show. I was in Baltimore last year. We were sharing a table with Livio Ramondelli and CG Fredericks, and it was hosted by these guys, Top Shelf Comic, and they were like, "Okay, we need to do something quick. Why don't we do jam pieces of Transformers?" And we started doing jam pieces of Transformers, like we did 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he said, like, you know what? Let's keep this moving, and then we did that on an official cover. So it was a double spread, and I did a few characters. CJ did the other characters, and Livio colored everything, and that's how we did that piece. So yeah, good memories, good stuff from last year.
Nice. Let's push it along. And Fabrice, we're running out of road, brother. So we might have to push through some more of these. So tell us what we're looking at.
So we're looking at a cover that is not out yet. That's going to be out next month from my friend Henri Campan, who has this series called War Lion. And he asked me to draw this. I did another cover for him that I gave you. And he was so happy with it that he asked me for another one. And I said, sure, of course. And it's like a father-daughter story with Kung Fu. But also with Asian, Jamaican roots. So it was very fun to draw. I really enjoyed that. It's colored by my friend Morby, who has been a regular color artist of mine and that lives in Nigeria. I love working with Morby.
Oh, that's cool.
I love it's very vibrant too.
I also love the elevator pitch. Father-daughter with Kung Fu.
I love Kung Fu. I mean, my intertwined book is Kung Fu. So yeah.
I love it.
That's the other cover that I did before. Also colored by Morby.
Oh, it's great stuff.
Do you give him any sort of guidance on what you're thinking?
Yes, yes. So I do a lot of gray layers. Like I place the shadows the way I want them, and then I give him like some notes about how I want the color, how I want it to reflect. And again, like he's a smart guy. He's also a good artist, so he understands what I want. Like, and if it's not the first time around, the second time it works. So,
yeah, that's just that being able to have really smooth conversations with the collaborators just makes it more fun, right? It's just like, hey, let's just get to work. Yeah,
it does. Okay, so that book is not something that I drew. The artist on that book is Corinne Shadney, but it was engineered through conversations with Corinne. This book is very important to me. It's an anthology of Jewish stories of diversity.
Oh.
And this is something that I've been wanting to do for ages. And I partner with a nonprofit called Bechol Lashon, which is a Jewish nonprofit that is dedicated to showing diversity in Judaism. And we're going to present 12 stories from real people that are from every walk of life. Some from Uganda, from Ethiopia, from Laos, from Canada, Japan, like a lot of different stories. And I have a story that I wrote in there too that is telling my family story from North Africa. My mother's family is from North Africa. So it was really interesting to put together this. And I really wanted to show what also an editor does, because I mean, I also designed the logo and the cover, but the rest was engineered with Corinne Shadney. And Corinne is a very smart guy. He's very talented. He's doing a lot of graphic novels in Europe. And so it was a great process to go back and forth with him about the concept of showing multiple faces, but not too crowded, you know? And it's still understandable. Like you understand that you're doing something that is very multi-ethnic, but it's like, yeah, it feels organically done. That's why I love this cover.
It's a great cover.
And Fabrice, what I'm loving about all of this stuff, and even when I was at your booth when I saw you not too long ago, is in Baltimore, like just how fresh all of your stuff looks. It doesn't look like, oh,
Thank
this
you.
was right. It's like the design aesthetic is, it's modern and it's thinking and it's beautiful stuff. I just wanted to tell you
Thank
that.
you.
I didn't get a
Thank you
chance to
very
tell
much.
you that last time I saw you.
Yes. And that is a cover for an intertwined spin-off that I got an award for. I got a Glyph award.
You got a Glyph award.
I got a
Congratulations.
Glyph award for this cover. Yes,
Yeah.
also cuddled by Morby. And so this is an interesting thing because the character originally appeared in intertwined, but in a different fashion. And when I started toying with the idea of giving him his own story, because I really love that character, I turned to my friend Greg Anderson Elise to write it because the character is a Haitian and Greg is of Asian descent. Mm-hmm. And we started talking, and initially I was not going to design the characters of those stories. I wanted the original artist on my book to do it, but he didn't have the time because he was completing another project. And so I like, okay, well, I can't wait. So I'm going to try to do the design. And Greg and I started going back and forth. And I'm very, very proud of this design because it looks familiar, but it looks original at the same time. Yeah. So you kind of have this kind of feeling of I'm in a familiar territory, but it's still fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. I mean, I did not expect to have an award for such a simple cover, but here we are.
Yeah, and Greg is such a star on the rise. I love anything he's attached to.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you showed us this in your studio, didn't you?
Yes. So that's another. I put this cover because so when we started the Mutiny Black Girl Magic program, initially Mutiny, that's the character in yellow here, was the mascot of the company. We launched a magazine a few years back called Mutiny, where she was the host. It was kind of like our heavy metal. But we did only 4 issues of it because retailers didn't really follow. It was extremely popular with people, but it was exhausting to make. Like I was handling a 100-page magazine on my own, and it was like I was about to die because when you have to conduct the interviews and do the articles and do the design and do the translations and deal with the contract and have the pages, like it was too much work. So I was like, I could do like 3 graphic novels for the amount of energy and time and money that I'm using for Mutiny, each copy of Mutiny. So, but because people kept saying, "Oh, we love that character. When are you going to give her our own series?" I turned to Crystal, my wife, and I like, well, I guess you're gonna have to do it. And so we created this thing. The original design of the character is from Crisscross. And I retooled it with the help of the interior artist Asia Fulmore, and we created this new version of the character. And so that is the variant cover for issue 2. And I wanted an Akira vibe.
Yeah. And
I was like, I'm gonna draw, and this is where I discovered that drawing bikes is hell. And so it was very, very hard to do. Yeah. But I really like the way this cover came out because it evokes Akira, but not so much. It's like between Akira and Tron, which is another favorite movie of mine.
Yeah.
And so I really had fun with that yellow bike, and again, Morby colored it brilliantly.
I love it.
It's and the series, like I'm always trying to do a variant cover. Like I did this other variant cover for issue 1, and I don't know. I really enjoy doing these Mutiny things. So we keep doing it. We're going to do another issue in July on Kickstarter. This is my pride and joy, and also I want to give Crystal her flowers. Like she wrote an amazing story, that she describes as Star Wars meets The Wiz.
Yeah, I'm in.
Well, are you drawing this traditional or digital? How are you? What's your
No, this one was digital.
Mm.
This one was digital. I'm doing more and more digital, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing traditional only when I'm doing commissions or just for my own pleasure. But I have too much to do.
Yeah.
And so digital is so convenient when I'm on the go, when I'm anywhere. Like I have my Cintiq here. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but it's still here. It's 5 years old. I never turn it off, and it's just like I keep pouring. But this is funny. This is something that we haven't talked about, and like I want to stress that the more you do, the more your ADHD kicks in, and I have really hard time focusing on stuff because I start something. Like I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna draw. Today I'm gonna write. And then, oh shit, I need to do this. I need to do the solar stations. I need to go to the bank. I need to ship this. It keeps shifting constantly. Or I have an email from a creator like, have you done the schedule? Yes, I have to do the schedule. And then it keeps going. Like, so I have really hard time doing all these things. Hopefully we can get out of the mess we're in distribution wise, and the company can get back on its feet, and I can finally get some help. But right now, it's just a one-man band, I'm afraid.
All right, let's burn through the rest of these. So what's this about?
Oh yeah. Oh, so that is actually the first time. This is a scoop. This is the first time that I'm showing this cover.
Oh wow.
So this is another one of my creator-owned series that I'm doing with a Brazilian artist that is amazing. His name is Eder Messias. He's been lately seen on Captain America, Sam Wilson, and Predator, whatever. He did a crossover. He did a bunch of Marvel stuff, which kept him away from going with this series. But I finally have him back. We released issue 1 on Backer Kit last year. That's how I know Backer Kit. We did issue 1, and he was not great. So we're doing issue 2 this summer. And the issue is finished, completed. It's been complete for a month. And as a variant cover of issue 2, it would actually be the main cover, cover A. I said, I want something that is like Jamie Hewlett, like the Gorillas. So I started looking at various images of the Gorillas, and I found this team shot. And I'm like, I'm going to adapt it with my characters. So these are the characters from my series. This is a very intriguing series. It's a high concept where time stops, then goes backwards and erases itself from existence, and only a few people remember the word from before.
I like it. You're like your own A24 studio.
Unfortunately, when you have too many ideas, I'm sure you guys know that. When you have too many ideas and not enough time, you're like, shit, it takes so much time. And like this series, I've been working on it for 15 years. It's only issue 2.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
I mean, technically, I'm on issue 3 right now. I just got the first pages, but yeah, it's just takes so long.
Real quick, Fabrice, our buddy Kirk, I think he wanted to know about Black Girl Magic. Asked about your coloring. Are you doing this in Photoshop or Procreate?
I'm using neither or. I'm using Clip Studio Paint.
Oh, you're coloring in Clip too?
So this thing is actually Morbi coloring, but Morbi colors also in Clip Studio Paint.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Great answer.
But like the gorilla style, I colored that. I did the coloring myself on this one, and I did it also in Clip Studio Paint.
Gotcha.
So do you like Clip Studio Paint better than, say, coloring in Procreate or Photoshop?
First, I don't have an iPad, so there's no Procreate for me. Because Procreate is exclusively on iPad.
Right.
So I can't use it. But even when I had an iPad, I didn't like Procreate because I don't like the real estate of the iPad. It's too small for me. And I don't like Photoshop because of its lack of precision. It's not a program that is made for artists. It is a program that artists have been using for lack of better options for a long time.
Sure.
Right.
And Clip Studio Paint offers that kind of comfort. Strangely, I was afraid of Clip Studio Paint for a very long time, and I didn't want to use it. And I tried other stuff. I tried Medibang. I tried everything that I could try. But let me tell you, once you crack that code and you get into the nitty-gritty of Clip Studio Paint, except from lettering, which is shit on that program,
I agree.
everything else is so good. And
I'm-
you can also go back and forth with Photoshop because they're compatible.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised to hear that your team enjoys coloring in Clip. I know that was one of the roughest things to translate when everybody went over to Clip. Like they do everything in Clip and then they go back to Photoshop to color stuff. That's
what
why
I would say. What I would say that Photoshop deals with gradients better. So if you're going to have like gradients based coloring, the gradients options in Photoshop are better to me than in Procreate. But if you're going to have all your flats and stuff, and even like the way you handle your brushes, I think the palettes are better organized in Clip than they are in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I don't mean to burn through your slides here. We're almost out of time, Fabrice. Tell us about this one. This looks really cool.
Okay, Shakespeare Vampires is the book that I was mentioning earlier. Colleen Douglas is writing based on my concept and my characters. And I recruited a Brazilian Japanese artist. Her name is Lisa. She's been drawing this. I did a variant cover, but it's not my best work. That's why I'm not showing it. I'd rather show her work. I'm amazed by the fact that she's not a more popular or more like renowned artist, because as you can see, it's very solid.
Yeah,
she does everything herself. And this is a light novel. There are some sequential pages and there are some illustrations in the book. The book is currently at the printer. I'm going to have it next week and then ship it to the backers, but it's going to be available on our table starting in 2 weeks. I'm very proud of this book. It's a very, very comic booky stuff, as in it's a collaborative effort. It's the product of various minds from a concept that came to me in 2010. So it's, again, a long time ago, and it took me all those years to bring it to where it is right now. Again, shout out to TC Harris, my friend, who helped me unlock the potential of this book by giving me an idea that drove the entire thing. It's basically Romeo and Juliet as vampires, and they've been at war for 400 years because they hate each other, because they betrayed their pact of dying together. And as vampires, they became fierce enemies. And then you have these twin girls that you have in the foreground that are in the mix because they hold the genetic key to ending all vampires on Earth. And one of them, Romeo and Juliet, I'm not going to tell you who, wants to kill them. The other one wants to save them so that vampires die. And so they're at the center of this.
I love it. I love it. Pathos.
Also,
great
love
stuff.
the design. I love your typography. I love the, it's very.
Yeah, I mean, I used a very old font from Comicraft to create this, which felt great. That's also something that I started to do, is crediting the studios I'm buying the fonts from. Like in Shakespeare's Vampires, in the masthead, you have fonts powered by Comicraft, and in the Big Lie you have fonts powered by Blambot. So I'm trying what I can. Again, we're not perfect. Sometimes we miss something, but yeah, I'm trying.
This is great. That was fantastic, Fabrice. Fabrice,
thank you very much, guys.
As I say every week on this show, where does the time go?
It's already 10.
we drank that whole episode. I love it. Fabrice, I feel like we just scratched the surface. I'm really excited about what we talked about tonight. It was such a deep dive into distribution, into what it really means to be a publisher. We kind of had a start on this when we had Rich Woodall on the other week, talking about this other part of being in the comics business. But thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you very much. Like it's I think the more people will know about what a publisher does, about what how as creators we have our place in the business, and this is not something we should fear, but something we should embrace.
Mm-hmm.
The better it will be, because like there's no such thing as knowledge. We need the knowledge. We can't afford to be uneducated about our own business.
True, very true.
I love it, guys. We're going to start the engine. Fabrice, you're a fantastic guest. You got to come back. I can't just say we're done.
I'll come back when you want me. I'm always available.
All right, and was there any other place you'd like to tell us about to follow you guys online, Fabrice?
Well, fairsquaregraphics.com. This is our web store and our website. We're very active on social media, especially Crystal, my lovely wife. She does a lot of videos now where she explains what the publisher does. It's on TikTok or on Instagram. She handles all this. She handles the social media. I'm just doing me for the time being. And let's face it, like she's she's prettier to look at than I am. So it's way better. It's all for the best. And of course, anyone who wants to see us live this weekend, table P33 in Dallas. Next weekend, we're going to be at Brooklyn Comic Con here, local. A week after, on June 14th, we're going to be at the Black Comics Festival in Harlem, formerly known as the Schomburg Show. This year it's a little different. It's outdoors, but we're going to be there. Then we're going to be at ALA, the American Library Association for Professionals, Librarians in Philly.
Yeah,
in Artist Alley.
We're gonna hang out. I'm gonna be there too.
Absolutely. My table is 2450, I think, or 2250, 2450, whatever. I'll be in Artist Alley, like next to Amy Chu. I'm 100% positive that Amy Chu is either next or across the aisle from me. And then we'll cap this run of 7 in 8 weeks, 7 conventions in 8 weeks at Fan Expo Denver, 4th of July weekend, and then 3 weeks break. I gotta fly overseas to see my grandkids, and then we start again in August, 4 conventions.
I love it. No rest for the weary.
Yeah. Again, no cons, no money. So
that's right.
This is what we have to do.
I love it. So you're an inspiration, Fabrice. I'm so glad that we made this happen. I think.
Thank you very much.
Like D. Parsons said, the chat has been rocks.
I love D. Parsons. Shout out to D. Parsons.
Shout out to D. Parsons. Read Rosebuds. Dead silent the whole episode. I love it.
Read Garfield.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's funny. Just real quick.
I'm very talkative. I'm sorry. Blame my Frenchness.
It's all good. D has been posting images that D has been immortalized in the Garfield strip.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is really cool. You should go check that out. But guys, that's our time. I gotta go walk my dog. Before we get out of here, we have to. Fabrice, you've seen the show. You know what we do at the end of this.
I love this show. I'm so proud that I can be a part of it now.
Well, thank you so much. And please, I want to see you in the chat too. Guys, this was a fantastic episode. I have no idea what we're doing next week, but you'll be the first to know. For my other 2 co-hosts, I'm JAMAR Nicholas with Fabrice. Guys, guess what? Benedict Cumberbatch told me we're in the end game right now. So I think it would behoove you get those hands together, Fabrice. So make sure you wash those Kirby hands.
Gotta spin it, burn it.
Kirby. Right. There you go. I love it.
Exactly.
And keep your ears peeled, and you'll find out what we're doing next week. So thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Bye.